So several months ago I did a review on this mini sensor panel, and I found it to be pretty good for the price. What I like most about it is the open source software that's available for it on GitHub, called Turing Smart Screen Python, which works on all platforms including Mac and Linux. This software is independent of the official software, and not only does it include a sensor panel application, but it also provides an easy to use Python library so you can use it with your own programs. There's endless possibilities for this screen if you're someone who's into DIY projects and needs a simple way to display information, especially with projects that use SBCs such as a Raspberry Pi. Now, a few people who watched that video asked if I could do a tutorial showing how to install the Turing Smart Screen Python software, so that's exactly what I'll be doing today. But before I get into it, I wanted to first give a quick rundown of what I like and dislike about this screen. So the first thing I like about the panel is the price. You can get it for around 20 bucks on AliExpress, which makes it a great deal in my opinion. Or if you prefer Amazon instead, you can grab it for about $35 now, which is actually a bit cheaper compared to when I first reviewed it. The links are in the video description if you're interested. Even at 35 bucks, it's still more affordable than alternative sensor panels, and while it's not as customizable as the screens that support AIDA64, it still provides more than enough stats and data to satisfy the majority of users. Another advantage is that it's easier to get set up than those more expensive panels. It also has a USB interface instead of HDMI, which is actually preferable for some people because HDMI panels can sometimes have annoying problems, such as the BIOS showing up on the sensor panel instead of your monitor. This is also useful for Raspberry Pis that only have 1 GB of RAM or less, since you can run it in headless mode. And with HDMI screens, you're required to run a desktop environment which can eat up a lot of RAM. A USB screen like this one will save you quite a bit of RAM, which can be a big deal on memory-limited devices such as the Raspberry Pi and other SBCs. There's also a 5-inch version of the screen if you're looking for something slightly larger. But as I mentioned before, my favorite thing about it is the Turing Smart Screen Python software, which I'll be showing how to get set up today. There's endless possibilities with this screen if you're a hobbyist who knows Python. For example, there's a custom AI robot I designed and built myself, and included a tiny screen on it to display various data. This robot is fairly compact, so I couldn't fit a bigger screen on it. But if I were to design a bigger robot that was at least twice as big as this one, then the Turing Smart Screen would make an excellent choice for an application like that. The screen's small size can actually be useful in some cases. That's why I think it's worth revisiting again and making this tutorial, since it might come in handy for future projects I do on the channel, especially for projects that involve SBCs. However, since it only uses a USB 2.0 interface, the display is pretty slow when it comes to refreshing the entire screen, so it's not suitable for things such as games or videos. But for a lot of the projects I do where I mainly care about displaying data as text or maybe bar graphs and other data, it works extremely well for those applications. Now before I get into the Python package, let's take a quick look at the official Windows software, which has seen a few updates since the last time I talked about it. This was actually one of my biggest complaints when I first reviewed it, since the software wasn't visually impressive and looked kinda janky. But fortunately, the developers have improved it a little bit, and have added some new features, and even included a few more themes as well, including a Pikachu theme. I'll include the link in the video description to the site where you can download it. The site is mostly written in Chinese, but they have an English version of the app too. Installing the Windows app is pretty straightforward, but there's a few things to keep in mind. First, it doesn't support Windows 11. Also, the downloaded file is a RAR archive, which means you need additional software to extract this type of file. I recommend 7-zip, which is free to download. Just make sure you select 7-zip when opening the RAR archive. After extracting it, next double-click the file named USB monitor. Now all you need to do is push run and it should start displaying your system stats with the default theme. If you want to change the theme, you'll need to stop the screen first. Then you can change the theme or any of the other settings. Like I said, they've added a few more themes and a few more options, which is nice. At least the developers are updating it. Overall, the application still isn't the best looking, but it's easy enough to use and works as it should. But let's now move on to the Python package. This software works on all platforms, including Windows and Mac, but I'll be showing how to install this on a Linux system running Kubuntu, which is just Ubuntu with a KDE desktop. Also, there's a few minor differences when installing on a Raspberry Pi, so I'll be sure to point that out as I go along. Now let's take a quick look at the GitHub page where there's a bunch of information about the different screens that are compatible and other relevant information, so you might want to take a look at that first. There's also instructions on how to get it set up, but these are missing a few details, so I decided to create my own instructions on my website, so let's go there now. The link is in the video description. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we have Python and a few other system packages installed. If you're on Windows, I included the links to download and install Python and Git, which should be fairly straightforward to install. But if you're running a Debian or Ubuntu-based system like I am, then you need to install the required software with these commands. Next, let's clone the GitHub repo and enter the downloaded folder. Now we need to download some packages with pip. It's best to create a Python virtual environment before installing packages, so these two lines will create a new virtual environment and activate it. Now if you're running a Raspberry Pi, you'll need to install slightly different packages, so copy and paste the second line here for Raspberry Pis. For all other systems, use the first command instead, so that's what I'll be using now. Next, you'll need to install tkinter. If you're using a different OS, then follow the instructions here. For example, on Windows, you'll just need to make sure that you have this box checked when installing Python. If running on a headless Raspberry Pi, then you don't need this package since it's only necessary for the GUI application, but there's also a non-GUI app as well. Since I'm on desktop, it'll be nice to have the GUI version, so let's go ahead and install tkinter. Next, add your user to the dial-out group with this command. Now we'll need to reboot the system before this change will take effect. So now I've rebooted and we're finally ready to run the app. To run the GUI app, make sure you're in the Turing Smart Screen Python folder and then enter this command. And actually, I forgot to reactivate the virtual environment since I rebooted the system. So I'll reactivate it and try again. And there we go. You can see the GUI provides various settings including the theme, brightness, and a few other things. I'm first going to run it with the default settings. So click Save and Run at the bottom right and your panel should start. Looks good. Everything is displaying correctly. Now let's try downloading a new theme. Go to this link here to see a list of user-created themes you can download. There's some pretty cool ones here you can check out. But as a quick example, I'll download the Dragon Ball theme. Click the file here to download it. And then unzip the folder and place it in the res/themes folder like this. Now we need to restart the app. In order to exit, press Ctrl+C at the terminal. You might need to also unplug the screen and plug it back in before restarting the app. Now start the app again and you should see the new theme in the list. Keep in mind there's also a feature that allows you to design your own themes as well. That's how this Dragon Ball theme was made. But I won't be getting into that. Also, if you want to configure and run the screen without the GUI, then you can modify the config.yaml file to configure it. Then run python main.py to start the screen. Now let's move on to setting up an Autostart script so that the panel can automatically start each time you log into your system. The GitHub repo has instructions how to do this, but for some reason that method wasn't working for me. So instead, I'll show how to do another method that did work. First, create an sh file and give it an appropriate name. As an example, I'll name it run@boot.sh. Next, open the file with a text editor and enter the following code. Make sure to change the path to Turing Smart Screen Python part to the path where you saved it on your particular system. In my case, it's located here. Next, open a terminal in this location and run this command to make the script an executable. Now the next part will depend on which distro and desktop environment you're using. For example, vanilla Ubuntu running GNOME will have an app called Startup Applications. Since I'm running KDE, I'll search for an app simply called Autostart. Every distro should have something like this where you can easily add startup scripts. So now I'll simply go to Add, select Add Login Script, then search for my script and select Open. Now reboot your system, and when you log back in, the sensor panel should automatically start up. Now as far as integrating this into your own projects, I suggest taking a look at the simple-program.py file to get an idea of how the various functions are used. I briefly went over this in my previous video, and I'll probably be coming back to it at some point in the future since this screen can be useful for a variety of different applications, as I went over earlier in the video. I have lots of different projects planned for the channel, so I'm sure at least one of them will be able to use this screen. Well, that wraps up today's video. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If so, then be sure to give the video a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you have any questions, then feel free to drop a comment. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.